Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty here on NCAA 14, and also featuring that college football revamp as well. We are already closing in on about the halfway point in this season here in year number 4, and we are certainly having some very intriguing storylines really starting to develop here. So what today's episode is all about is the confirmation of some of those storylines here today. We got 16 nationally televised games for you around the country, but not only that, we're going to check in on the conference standings here today as well, just to see where every team stacks up as we approach this halfway point in this season. So, gonna be a really fun episode. I hope you guys are excited for it, because I certainly am. So, with that being said, go ahead, get yourself some popcorn, because it's gonna be a good one. Make sure you go ahead, smack that like button if you haven't done so already, and also hit that subscribe button as well if you happen to be brand new to the channel. Let's go ahead and be like Trey Songz and dive right into it. So let's go ahead and get week number 7 officially started by making a little trip out to the West Coast. And that West Coast trip will have Colorado State taking on the Falcons of Air Force. Air Force coming off of their first win this season. They beat Navy, and this is how you could possibly start the process of winning that second game of the season, taking it all the way. Number 50 is gone like a girl in a country song. Touchdown Air Force. And the Falcons, just like that, they are going to take the lead against a very good Colorado State team. And matter of fact, they might make this 14-0 real quick, as we'll have a nice little run over to the left-hand side for Chauncey Cutler, who finds the end zone for the Falcons. But Colorado State, well, they're 4-2 for a reason. This is a good football team. Could make some noise out there in the Mountain West, as Ryan Daniels will find the end zone. Touchdown Rams. They're going to ram their way back into this game. And we're going to be in for an exciting first quarter. We've already had 21 points scored in this first quarter. Could make it 28 depending on how the end of this drive ends up turning out. First and goal now, as they're going to, no, it's not a run, it's a throw instead, and finds Swag Thompson, one of your guys' customs. He couldn't find the end zone, but he does get his very first catch of the day, though, so we'll see what Colorado State does on a second and goal, and they're just going to pound it with Cody Hale, who will have it hailing from above. That's a touchdown for the Rams, and we have a tie ball game once again. Now, jumping into the second quarter of action, Colorado State looking to take their first lead of the day as they go right back to Swag Thompson. It's been a nice red zone threat here today for the Colorado State Rams. 2 of his free catches have came within the red zone. We'll see if they go back to him, but instead they go to Cody Hale again. Cody Hale going to get his second rushing touchdown of the day, as it's been all Colorado State since Air Force started the game off on a 14-0 run. It's been all Rams after that, and they're looking to make it 28 unanswered points here in the last couple of minutes of this first half. First and goal coming up for Colorado State, as the Rams will drop back to pass. Looks over the middle of the field and finds Ryan Daniels in the end zone for yet another touchdown. Marcus Allen, well, he's just slinging that thing all across the field right now. But Air Force will have a chance to cut it down to just one possession. And they will with Ryan Vaughn, who finds the end zone. Touchdown Falcons. Deion Kirby has to be happy with his offensive output here in the first half. But, hey, 15 seconds left in this first half. We'll see what Colorado State can do. They have a timeout. Marcus Allen is going to try to throw it over to the right-hand side. It's going to be caught for an interception. He might get his second touchdown of the game, but there's a flag. There is a flag on the field. Don't let it be what I think it's going to be. Is it what I think it's going to be? Yes, it is. It's clipping. So the touchdown is going to be nullified, and Colorado State will take a lead into the halftime locker room. Hopefully it doesn't hurt the Falcons too terribly much, but problem is, this Air Force team, after an electric performance against Navy last week, well, they might be running out of gas here in week number 7, because Colorado State, they are starting to really run away with it right now. What a dot! find a way over to the left-hand side. That was a tight window, and he found a way to fit it in there regardless, as now Colorado State could make it a 28-point lead. Imagine that after Air Force had the lead earlier today. I would say how the mighty has fallen, but you see Air Force's record. They're not really a mighty team now, are they? So Colorado State, they're going to run away with it here in the second half. 59-21 will be your final score as the Rams win their 5th game. But let's see if we can get a little bit more of a competitive game as we'll remain out on the West Coast for now. A lot of early games surprisingly happening on the West Coast. Those early league games, getting some extra attention to some of the smaller schools in the NCSL that haven't done much here in this sim league, at least not yet. Just because they haven't done anything just doesn't mean that they can't do anything, right? It's a process to it. There's levels to this stuff, right? But Isaiah Hafner, shout out to Isaiah Hafner. He's going to get the Arizona Wildcats deep in Boise State territory, and he'll eventually be topped off by a touchdown throw to John White that will get Arizona on the board first. However, in the second quarter, Boise State trying to claw their way back into the game as the lefty is going to throw out to the right-hand side. He had Frank Williams for a touchdown, but because it was slightly underthrown, dude had to come back and make that catch outside the end zone. So now Boise State has to use a little bit more clock, but hey, all good. Boise State, they still find the end zone. It's a touchdown for the Broncos, and Boise State is right back in it. 30 seconds left here in the first half as Boise State looks to try to take the lead before we go into that halftime locker room. We'll see what Boise State can set up here as we get to the final play of the first half. They do work it to about midfield, and hey, just going to launch it downfield, hoping for the best. And yeah, that was absolutely covered. Arizona's going to get an easy interception. And yeah, Arizona's going to take a lead into halftime. Plus, they get a chance to double dip as well. They get the ball to start the second half. And they would take full advantage, able to get it out to Isaiah Hafner, where it seems like Arizona is looking to pull away here late in this fourth quarter. But hey, shout out to Boise State. They're not going to give up on their home field. Boise State, not the same team that we've seen, in the 2000s with their amazing runs to like the Fiesta Bowl, right? Because Arizona's going to win their second game of the season. Very convincing win, 34-24, as Boise State Broncos will end up falling to 2-4 on the year. That being said, we do get our first studio update. And how about Oregon State? They get back to 500 on the year as they will take down Fresno State 28-21. The Bulldogs will be under 500 once again as they get deeper into Pac-12 conference action. That being said, we now have some more games coming your way. How about a key one possibly in Conference USA? The Temple Owls on the road to take on the Pittsburgh Panthers, and Temple off to a fast start. They're off to a 4-1 start already, looking like a team that could possibly make some noise in Conference USA, but let's see how they handle this competition in this interstate battle, as Temple on the opening drive is going to put it into the end zone. Freddie Yancey will give Temple the lead. However, Pittsburgh will quickly respond, though, as they'll hand it off to their tailback. And their tailback, he's a tough guy to bring down. He's not going to go down very easily. However, Pittsburgh is unique in the sense of, well, if you can get some positive yards, they're going to go fast. They're one of the fastest teams in the country when it comes to getting a playoff in between snaps. And you saw some of that right there with Temple not really having much time to get prepared for the next play. But hey, give that Temple Owls team some credit. Some of these guys were recruited by one of your custom coaches, Jake Jacobs. He was the defensive coordinator here at Temple for seasons 1 and 2. And that was when he was also recruiting coordinator for the Temple Owls as well. So some solid pieces here on this Temple squad for sure. As now, Temple is looking to make it a 24-7 lead, and there it is. Raul Rivers is going to find the end zone for Temple. A convincing lead, but right before we go into halftime, Pittsburgh will drive down the length of the field. Will end up finding himself some Marcus Coleman, who will find the end zone. It's a touchdown for the Panthers. So just a 10-point deficit to work off of instead of 17. And now we'll see what Pittsburgh can do here in the second half as he runs over a defender. Dennis never gave him a chance to breathe. Touchdown, Panthers. And Pittsburgh will once again be within just a few points. Matter of fact, in that fourth quarter, they have a chance to take the lead. And they do for the first time today. Bo Beverly finds the end zone, and that last touchdown ends up being the difference as Pittsburgh pulls it out 28-24 in a key Conference USA battle. That being said, though, we now check in on the #1 team in America right now, the Trojans of USC. They're going to make the trip down the California interstate to take on San Diego State, though, as the Aztecs, they are already behind that 8 ball a little bit because we know this USC team can score, but if they're also getting stops as well, oh baby, you are going to be in for a long day because they can get after this quarterback. Tom O'Neal found that out the hard way as Tom Newman comes screaming in. So this second and goal is going to become a lot tougher as now they're going to go ahead and run it out to the left-hand side. And they get a bunch of that yardage back. Ian Ashley is going to get them right down onto the goal line. So this third and goal is going to be a lot easier because of that run. They'll hand it off to Ian Ashley once again, and the Aztecs will be on the board here late in the first quarter of action. However, like we said, USC, they can put some points up in a hurry because Victor Spence, man, he can certainly sling that thing around. He's like Drake in that one video, just letting it sling out there, man. Victor Spence, he is standing on business right now as Victor Spence is going to find the end zone as well on the ground, putting up a 30-burger before we even get into halftime. Just an amazing display of offensive explosionness in this first half from USC. But Aztecs are not giving up. If they can get into the end zone here, would be a 2-possession game before we go into half. As O'Neal, well, he's not going to do himself any favors. He finds one of your guys' customs in Jabari Shabazz Harris, the true sophomore corner. And it'll give USC one more possession for the half, and they take full advantage. USC is going to run San Diego State out of their own building. And USC is going to win big here, 51-14. So we got a bunch of more games happening around the country. How about a shout out to Northern Illinois, though? The Huskies are ranked in the top 25, but we'll also have this big time matchup down south between LSU and Florida. So that's going to be coming a little bit later, but for now, let's show a little bit of love to that Northern Illinois team. Undefeated, ranked in the top 25. Big game for them. Going on the road to Knoxville, Tennessee. Taking on Tennessee Volunteers team that is trying to right the ship after a disappointing start to the season. However, the Huskies, well, they want to be undefeated for a reason. Coming in, feeling like they're underdogs, even though they are ranked higher and given more respect in the AP poll than this Tennessee team. Crazy world that we're living in. Crazy world that we are living in right now. But that being said, though, Northern Illinois, they got a chance to really put the hurt on Tennessee right now. Trying to put together a drive towards the end of the first half. Looking over to the right-hand side. Fires and drops it right in the bucket for nearly another touchdown pass. John Cross threw it perfectly. And one thing that Northern Illinois loves to do is run that ball. They are old-fashioned as they come. Running that good old-fashioned triple option. They run to perfection there on the goal line. So Northern Illinois has a 17-3 lead, but their quarterback from Tennessee is going to lead them down the field as Tim Landrum on this drive is actually going to set a new record for most passing yards in a career. He actually breaks Peyton Manning's record, who, you know, we thought this one that would always stand here at the University of Tennessee, but hey, Tim Landrum, he's been a 4-year starter. And while it hasn't been a disappointing tenure for his time here at Tennessee from a team record standpoint, individually, he's played very well. So we'll see if he can will Tennessee back to a top 25 win here in the second half. But Huskies are also looking to shut the door, and this could help them do that with Michael Williams being able to find the end zone. Touchdown, Northern Illinois. So the Huskies are back ahead by a couple of touchdowns, but they will get right back in it with a score themselves as Sam Graves will cut it to within a possession. However, it will simply not be enough, though, as Northern Illinois, well, they will end up winning 30-25. The Huskies remain undefeated. Meanwhile, we'll check in on the number 11 team in the nation in Ohio State. They're taking on their in-state opponent in the Miami Redhawks, and Miami throws an interception here to the true freshman Doug Fowler. Nice pickup from Vermont, of all places. Vermont known for producing quality Division I prospects, but not only do they find one in Vermont, but one that's starting right away as a true freshman. But that's not the biggest story here, though. You guys notice that score on the bottom of part of your screen? Miami is winning right now. Miami, this would be a massive upset if they can actually pull this off, but maybe we're starting to see things return back to normal. Ohio State has found the end zone. All right, they got the goose egg off. Now it's time for Ohio State to play ball. But Miami also showed up to play ball, because on the very next possession, the Redhawks are going to drive it all the way down into the red zone themselves, and they can make this a 2-score game once again, and that throw is going to do it. William Mathis, the tailback out of the backfield, is able to find a soft spot in the zone coverage, and yeah, Miami has a 7-point lead. And we'll see if that lead can grow as he's going to throw it downfield. He's got a man. Nobody there to cover him. He burns the top off of the defense. Lee Thompson finds the end zone. It's a touchdown for the Redhawks. And it's just one of those games where I am shocked. I am genuinely shocked this is happening right now. Like, it would be one thing if it was a close game and, upsets have happened here in the NCSL. There's no question about that. But, this is a story. This is absolutely a story right here. Miami not only beating Ohio State right now, but they are blowing out Ohio State. They're looking to become the new kings of the Buckeye State, as Miami will go on and win this game and take down the Ohio State 45-20. The Buckeyes suffer their second loss of the season. That being said, though, we now check in on maybe a team that should get some top 25 consideration soon. How about Houston? They certainly do not have any problems here, that's for sure, as their quarterback is just going to start it by running it into the end zone himself. Craig Brooks finds the end zone for the touchdown. He gets it done through the air. He can also get it done through the legs as well. So SMU certainly gonna have their hands a little bit full here in this game, taking on an underrated Houston squad. It seems like being 4-1 and not even being ranked right now is absolutely wild to me. But hey, you know what the kids would say. It is what it is at this point, as SMU will try to get rid of its goose egg off the scoreboard. As now, 1st and goal coming up, they're going to go to that trusty running game where Jeremy Smith will finally find the end zone for the Mustangs of SMU, as they will make it a 1-score game for now. But the Cougars got them keys out because they are on a drive. Craig Brooks, we know he can sling that thing around. We'll see if he can put together a masterful drive here towards the end of the first half. Dropping back, he's got a clean pocket, looks over the middle, he's got a receiver. And it's going to be Nick Thompson for the first down. And it gets the Houston Cougars into the red zone once again, as they'll call a toss play out to the left-hand side. It's got a couple of blockers to work through, and Dante Sims is able to do the rest. Got that crease, and is able to take advantage of the crease on the outside. Touchdown Cougars! And Houston will take a 21-10 lead, but after SMU quickly punted the ball away, Houston has a chance to come out here and add even more points onto the board right now. We'll see if they do exactly that, as they'll rush quickly to the line. Less than a minute left to play here in the first half. Brooks in the shotgun formation. He's going to snap it. Looking over the middle. He's going to throw, and it's thrown late. It is thrown late, and SMU is going to take advantage. A turnover in the end zone. It makes every offensive coach in America absolutely sick to their stomachs. But this will make a defensive coach hurl, that's for sure. Dante Sims being untouched in the end zone again. And I don't know how that's possible because they were all packed in there pretty tight. They were packed in there like a bunch of sardines in a barrel. I'll tell you that much. Still was untouched in spite of that. That's crazy to me, as Houston has an absolutely convincing lead. SMU desperately needs these points. Dropping back to pass on a 3rd and 5, though, looking to the corner of the end zone, and they will get the points that they're looking for. They're going to find Cedric Fine, and they're going to be fine with the extra point as well. Could have made it just a 10-point game, but instead they're competent with allowing it being an 11-point game instead. But first, they got to get this stop on defense, and I don't know if that's going to be happening, to be honest with you guys, because Craig Brooks is going to just scramble to the end zone, gets hit late, but it's NCAA, so, you know, that flag is never thrown. Houston wins big here, 49-17, showing why they should be ranked here now. That being said, speaking of teams that maybe don't deserve to be ranked as much, but they're receiving votes, though, is Alabama. Alabama is 3-2 on the year, and you know, not your daddy's Alabama or the fair weather fansdomness that, you know, you typically see from a Alabama team. 2 losses for an Alabama team would be incomprehensible, although it could happen this year in real life, but that's besides the point. Also, something that has happened is Alabama being in a close one with a former Group of 5 school in South Alabama. They failed to miss the extra point, by the way, so that's tragic. So we're here late in the 3rd quarter. It's still a very close game, a very defensively minded game. So when you get these red zone opportunities like this, you gotta come away with something. And they're gonna take that to heart. Quinn Lake is gonna find the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama. And while it wasn't the most fun way to win at all, Alabama found a way to win. 16-10 is gonna be your final score in a very defensive struggle. But now we get into one of the bigger matchups that we have here in week number 7. A top 15 matchup that we got going on down in the swamp. Number 9, LSU, traveling on the road to take on number 15, Florida. That could have some big college football playoff implications down the line. So, opening drive starts with LSU getting the ball as Derek Brown stays on his feet, gets the pitch out, and now it's a foot race down the sideline. And Derek Brown, well, he's going to be awarded with a completion instead of a incompletion or like a rushing attempt. I'm sure they don't mind either way. So, yeah, man, that being said, LSU is going to take the lead here with a 7-0 lead, and just a good precedent to set here on this first drive. Octavian Cater, on the other hand, well, I can't necessarily say the same thing. I can't say the same thing at all, as LSU, you know, had a decent drive going, but Seth Smith is going to jump this route, and the rest is just history. I mean, you can't be choreographing your throws like this. He telegraphed that throw, and Seth Smith, man, very instinctive safety. He is going to absolutely make him pay for that, no doubt about it. So LSU is going to take a 14-0 lead, and that lead could grow even more. Brown dropping back. He's trying to set up the screen, throws it anyway. Probably should have just thrown it in the dirt. He wanted Travell Bankson, one of your guys' customs. He just wasn't open. He simply was not open at all. And Keith Smith, you know, when you get a layup, you got to make your layups, man. And yeah, he's going to surely make a layup with that pick. But we'll see if Florida can do anything about it offensively. It's been a rough day for the Florida Gators offensively. And that would continue even though they started that drive at midfield. They still don't come away with anything. But maybe this defense can spark them up a little bit. That could help them get a spark going as LSU turns the ball over yet again. That was a huge, because LSU, they were on the verge of scoring on that drive, and eventually the Gators offensively, they got to do something, because, you know, defensively, I mean, things like this were eventually going to happen. You know, LSU, they know a thing or two about putting some points on the scoreboard, especially on the ground, and this was an absolutely perfect example of that. Derek Brown going to be able to find the end zone. It's quickly becoming 21-0. Meanwhile, the Florida Gators are still trying to get points on the board, period. And maybe they'll get a little bit of spark here on this halfback screen. Breaks a tackle there. Breaks another one. Couldn't break a third, but Terrence Kearney is able to turn that into a 35-yard scamper. They'll help Florida finally punch it into the end zone, courtesy of the fullback, Nate Perry. How about that? A little bit of big boy love. Able to find his way into the end zone, so that will get Florida on the scoreboard finally. However, less than 3 minutes left to play in the first half. Derek Brown is going to take it on the read option. He's got some space out on the outside, and Derek Brown is going to find the end zone. Touchdown, LSU, and the Tigers are going to score again. And they are taking it to the swamp, and they're doing what very little teams out there could possibly do. They are making the swamp absolutely silent right now. That's crazy. So LSU has a 31-7 lead going into halftime, and is quickly getting very out of hand. LSU has a chance to score once again as Derek Brown will score yet again. It's a touchdown for LSU. It is a splattering out there on the field right now, and Florida is looking hapless out there. They are not, and I mean not, looking like that number 15 team in the nation right now. They might be being exposed as frauds in real time right now. That's crazy. So at this point in the game, you're down by 30 plus. You got a 4th and 4. You might as well go for it. It can't get much worse. And hey, you're right. They actually get something good that happened. Corey Harper's going to make a 32-yard catch. And now Florida is in the red zone once again, where they hand it off to their tailback, Eric Boyd, who finds the end zone. Touchdown, Gators. And Florida does score yet again. However, LSU on the drive yet again, as LSU is looking to try and put some nails in the coffin. But hold up now. Wait a minute. If it goes all the way and there's no flags either, all of a sudden, this could get very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. As Meek Mill would say, "Oh, you thought I was finished? Watch this." And yeah, we are certainly watching this in real time. 2-point conversion. Suddenly, this is a 2-possession game. We'll see if Florida can actually succeed in the 2-point conversion, as Octavian Cater, he tried his best to scramble to the outside, but he can't find any space. So, 3-possession game. So still a little bit of a long shot for Florida to come back and somehow win this thing, especially if you're still making mistakes like that. Like that, man? Are you kidding right now? That's wild to me, as Kevin Kilpatrick is going to get in on this turnover fest. A very sloppy game for both teams. We usually don't see this many turnovers, especially when we're like actually playing through like a whole game, right? We're seeing a lot of turnovers here today. It's just bad football. It's partially bad football here, man. As speaking of those turnovers, Florida is going to force another turnover. They are +2 in the turnover margin for Florida, and they're still down by 18. Wild world that we're living in, I guess. But Octavian Cater gets another extra shot, as Cater is going to run to the outside. He's going to, hey, he makes a couple of guys miss and a little bit of a hurdle. Okay, way to show that athleticism that got him on the field in the first place as a freshman and as a sophomore as well. Cater later on in the drive will also make a nice throw out to the outside, and he will find Jamie Bowen for the touchdown, and that will cut it down to just a 12-point game. I would expect that they will actually go for it here on the 2-point conversion as well. So 2-point conversion attempt is on the way, and they will get it. 2-point conversion is good, but that is as close as Florida is going to get, though. So Florida will drop another game. And for LSU, this is a very impressive performance for the LSU Tigers, who do end up finding a way to win by 10 points on the road against a top 15 team as well. However, we do have some more studio updates around the country as we hear word on the UCLA squad that took on Vanderbilt at home in a non-conference. UCLA wins 28-7, And Michigan also dodges another bullet. They barely beat Akron 34-28. They had to escape that one for sure. But wait, there's more. Down goes TCU. TCU loses to ULM 17-7. And the Horned Frogs, well, they are going to drop their very first game of the season. We'll see how far they fall in these top 25 polls when those come out. But we do get a little bit of user versus user action right now, as we get the pleasure of seeing Georgia. The Georgia Bulldogs are going to be taking on the UAB Blazers. And it's just a team that is on just two different scales right now, because Georgia is undefeated at the moment. But you know who is not undefeated? You got UAB who has not won a single game, and I mean it, a single game this entire season. The offensive coordinator there, Alex Sanders, has been down bad, but his UAB team does score a touchdown, so you know, at least they can say that here on Legion Field. But why am I showing special teams? That's because special things go down on special teams, as he gets absolutely walloped. And Georgia will recover the muffed punt. They'll eventually turn that into a field goal. But in the second quarter, though, Frederick Moeller is going to drop back. Clean pocket for the most part. Looks over the middle and finds a wide but naked open Tim Green for a 42-yard scamper, as it puts the Georgia Bulldogs in the red zone, where they will finish a few plays later, finding the same exact person. Touchdown, Tim Green. And he's feeling pretty mean today. So Georgia takes a 20-7 lead into halftime. And in that second half, oh baby, was it all Georgia in this one? The Georgia Bulldogs, they are just coming out, and they're playing real hard right now. Georgia trying to show why they're a number 5 team in the nation. And UAB, they're just absolutely shell-shocked at the moment. Towards the end of the third quarter, after a UAB 3-and-out, Moeller all day to throw, and he's going to get a big completion to Antonio Paris before he gets absolutely lit up like a Christmas tree. That ended up being one of the last plays of the third quarter, but in the fourth, though, we got a really nice cutback here for Devin Taylor, who's able to bounce it to the outside, finds the end zone, and Georgia will end up winning this thing 40-7. Even getting the backups in the fourth quarter as well. So I actually did mean to include this game alongside the UAB Georgia matchup, but when I went to go play this game, I accidentally simulated instead, and we didn't have a backup file ready that would have me have to re-record other games, right? So that's my bad on my end. It does seem that Wisconsin did take care of business, so Wisconsin would go on to win this game 35-16, mostly off of the back of just being a more disciplined team, having 17 penalties in a single game. Well, that is just simply not going to cut it when you're trying to beat a top 25 team that is still undefeated. So we do take this time to get another studio update in. And how about Hawaii sneaking their way to a 6-0 record? They get that 6-0 record with a 27-17 win over Stanford. As we start to get into some of the final games that we have here in this episode, most notably what we got going on here towards the end, arguably the biggest one, Florida State and Miami, that could decide the Sunshine Division right now in this episode tonight. With that being said, we'll leave that for later, as we have a big game for relevance for West Virginia. 5-1, but they are not ranked in the top 25, and we might start to see why. Notre Dame, who has struggled through the first 4 games of the season, they get off firing on all cylinders here in South Bend, Indiana. And I thought it was going to be one of those games where Notre Dame was just going to run West Virginia completely out of the building. But give this West Virginia team a little bit of credit. They showed a lot of fights. They're not going to give up after going down 21-0 quickly. And West Virginia, well, hey, they're going to get on that scoreboard quickly now. Taylor Steffens gets the Mountaineers on the scoreboard, but they got to get a stop on defense, though. This is the 4th drive of the game for Notre Dame. They have gotten a touchdown on every single drive so far. If they're not careful, they can go 4 for 4 like a Wendy's value menu item right now. As Fighting Irish will have a 1st and 10 in the red zone. Ben Bentley, we're going to throw a dime, and that dime was thrown in the bucket. Greg Hunt finds the end zone. Touchdown, Fighting Irish. And the Fighting Irish are humming along at a high level here in this first half. Looking to do really what USC did in the first half. Put up a 30-burger before we go into the halftime locker room. And Greg Hunt's going to hand it off to the tailback. And yeah, Ben Bentley, man, he's going to find the end zone here too. Touchdown, Notre Dame. And the Fighting Irish do put up a 30-piece here in this first half. But last minute of the second quarter, though, Taylor Steffens gets some time in the pocket, fires over the middle, doesn't get completed, though. And that is going to be a first down goal line situation here as they will throw over the middle to Dan Bishop. As Dan Bishop will make it 38-24. But they'll need a big second half if Notre Dame is going to, actually if West Virginia is going to come back and make this an interesting game. And they sure do. They actually do tie it up with less than 3 minutes left to play. So how does Notre Dame play this possession out? They have not really been efficient in the second half. They have definitely slowed it down a little bit. And here we go. Greg Hunt, he's going to take it out on the outside. He's going to keep it. Able to cut to the outside. Only can be brought down from behind. He does, but he's inside the 20-yard line. Does West Virginia use the timeouts here? It's going to be a very interesting time game. Notre Dame, they're well in field goal range, especially after that particular reception as well. Getting Justin McBride out of bounds is probably nice too. So yeah, 1st and goal coming up. Notre Dame could run out this clock and settle for a field goal, but Ben Bentley was a little bit selfish, man. A little bit selfish, found the end zone instead. So West Virginia will have a shot to keep this game tied and possibly go to overtime. 1 minute left. It's a 4th down coming up. Steffens fires to the right-hand side. He's got a man. It's caught. He breaks another one too. Can he go all the way? No. But Kevin Miller with a 61-yard scamper on a 4th down. Oh, baby, they needed that. And West Virginia will answer the bell. And they will be tied at 45 all here in South Bend, Indiana. Oh, my word. West Virginia, after being down 28-7 at one point. Well, we're now going to have overtime all of a sudden. So let's see how overtime plays out as Notre Dame will get it started with a just simple field goal attempt. Nothing too crazy here as West Virginia, all they got to do is get a touchdown and they'll win this thing. They can legitimately win this thing right now. We'll see if the Mountaineers can seize the opportunity. Couple plays later on a 2nd and 7. Taylor Steffens on the play action. He's got time. Looks over to the end zone. Caught! Kevin Miller scores! And the Mountaineers are going to march into South Bend, Indiana, and stun, and I mean stun, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. 51-48 is going to be your final score. I better see West Virginia ranked. I swear, man. So let's see if some of the other games could add to that similar level of excitement. We now go to the border war between Kansas and Missouri. Two teams that certainly do not like each other in any stretch of the imagination. And Missouri wants to strike first in the heart of Kansas as they'll drop back the pass. Looks over in the middle. Finds. Looks like it's Rick Walker that finds the end zone for the Missouri Tigers as they will take an early 14-0 lead. But Kansas, they got a nice little offensive coordinator in Kyle Faro. He just took over his first year at Kansas as the offensive coordinator. Leads a nice little touchdown drive there from a schematic standpoint. Kansas doesn't have a lot of talent. Kansas certainly does not have a lot of talent, at least in this particular game, right? But Missouri, that being said, having a hard time closing the door. They're only up by a touchdown. They got to get a first down here to possibly run out the rest of his clock. And, oh, baby, that first down might be absolutely critical. Because Kansas is now out of timeout. So Missouri could just sit on it, and they would be good. Well, hey, it's a rivalry game, so we can't have good sportsmanship in rivalry games. Missouri's going to score a last-minute touchdown, as that will seal the deal against the Jayhawks of Kansas there. That being said, we now check in on Virginia Tech, who won the ACC last year, taking on North Carolina State, who's coming off of, frankly, a bad loss to Wake Forest, right? We'll see if they can bounce back here against this above-average Virginia Tech team, another team that really should get some top 25 consideration. Not a lot of love in general for the ACC for whatever reason. The Virginia teams and the Carolina teams, I don't know what's going on. Not a lot of love either way. So Virginia Tech is up 24-0 though. They're handling their business, which, you know, if you're an unranked team with a above average or really a good record like Virginia Tech, this is kind of what you want to do. You got to win dominantly, but North Carolina State will eventually get off the scoreboard, even if they don't get that 2-point conversion though. However, in the third quarter, North Carolina State is going to battle back here. Maurice Davis is going to find the end zone for the Wolfpack, and we'll also see them with this 1st and 10 opportunity. Chance to make this possibly a one-score game. Oh, if North Carolina State can come back after being down 24-0. Oh, baby, would it get ugly. It would get absolutely ugly if that ended up happening. And sure enough, North Carolina State, well, they'll settle for an extra point, but only down by 4 points. So Virginia Tech could really use some extra points on the scoreboard, because really after they got to that hot start early, completely forgot how to play offensive football. Completely forgot how to do that. And now they got a 3rd and long that they have to deal with too. Oh, baby, this could be, that could be a problem. But not for this offense, though. Able to make a big play when it matters the most. Chris Pugh, who nearly has 100 yards on the day, by the way. He picks up the first down. And that will eventually lead to a Virginia Tech no, the ball's on the ground. It's recovered. But I thought that you couldn't advance the ball if you recovered a fumble. I don't know. But Virginia Tech matters because they find a way to win. So now we'll check in on Ole Miss. We haven't talked about Ole Miss that much. You know, a team that won the Sun Belt last year. Kind of been flying under the radar, even though they are the defending Sun Belt champions. Even though they are ranked in the top 15 in the country. Even though we saw them, I'm pretty sure, win a college football playoff game, if I'm not mistaken. I think they made it to the quarterfinals. Not 100% sure on that, but I did remember seeing Ole Miss in this college football playoff, so I'm surprised that we haven't talked about them all that much. And, you know, even in this game that happens to be on national television, don't really, you know, have a lot of notable moments in this game, but Ole Miss was in that type of mood where they just wore you down, man. They really just wore you down. And Auburn found that out the hard way. Auburn gets worn down big time in this one as Ole Miss. You know, it's not a exciting game per se, but they do blow out Auburn though, 33-3 in the final score. But now let's get into this biggest game of not only of this episode, but probably the entire season so far. It's Florida State going on the road to take on the Miami Hurricanes, and you see those Sunshine Divisional standings. Both teams are undefeated in Sunshine Conference play, and winner of this game is going to control their own destiny. And Georgia, I know, is going to be looking very intently at this game, as Georgia is certainly the odds-on favorite to come out of the Peach Division. This could decide the Sunshine Division, because both of these teams have looked very dominant outside of this rivalry game. So we'll see what comes out of it, as we saw Miami get that opening touchdown with Caleb Kirk, who was a Heisman finalist, by the way. And then we're going to see a fumble recovery go the opposite way. So if you're pulling for Miami here, oh man, this is not what you are looking for. This is what you are looking for if you're a Miami guy. If you're rooting for Florida State, on the other hand, not so much right now. 14-0 is going to be your score. As now Miami, they're taking it to Florida State, man. This has been impressive what Miami has done thus far in this game. And it's been through all three phases as well. Offense has been good. Defense has always been good. They got a scoop and score. Special teams hasn't been too bad either. It's just all coming together. Max efficiency, maximum performance as well. This is the end result of that. Miami with a convincing lead. And they're looking to make that lead a little bit bigger before we go into halftime. As Rodney Walker's got some time in the pocket. It's going to find Jason Lake. And Jason Lake is going to find some wiggle room up the seam. Nearly a perfect first half for Rodney Walker, who only has one incompletion in the entire first half. And while the score is going to look a lot closer, you saw what happened in that first half. It was truly never close. And Miami will control their own destiny in the Sunshine Division moving forward. But now let's go ahead and take a look around the country at some of the games that might have fallen through the cracks a little bit. How about the Army Black Knights recovering pretty well? They bounced back against Texas State as the Army Black Knights end up winning 31-9. As for the Cornhuskers of Nebraska, they handle their business against a reeling Eastern Michigan squad. Nebraska Cornhuskers win convincingly here as they end up winning 45-21. Now for Arkansas, this was a big game for them as they were trying to remain in the top 25. Troy was on that doorstep, but the Troy Trojans were not ready for the big lights yet as Arkansas ends up winning 31-13 and control their fate in the Sun Belt Conference. More on that later. As for the Oregon Ducks, they get a massive blowout of Central Michigan. Oregon was able to put up 59 points as Oregon ends up winning 59-24. Speaking of blowouts, Nevada was able to secure a big-time blowout as well as they take down Washington State 48-14 in order to get closer to being 500 overall on the season. After that, we got the Minnesota Golden Gophers, who were also able to get a blowout as well. Northwestern still searching for their first win of the season. They've played in 7 games, and they have failed to win any of those 7 games so far. However, North Carolina is not having that same problem as they're now 4-1 after a 23-14 win over Appalachian State, which is good enough to keep the Tar Heels in this top 25 for right now. That being said, the Rice Owls also deserve some love as well as they are still undefeated. The Rice Owls end up beating Wyoming 38-21. Rice is now a top 5 team in America at the moment. Some love should also be given to the Utes of Utah as Utah is able to win big in conference play. Utah beats New Mexico 42-17 and Utah starting to earn more respect, being a top 15 team in the country. Also deserving some more respect is the Fighting Illini of Illinois, who climb up to number 17 in the country. Illinois was able to handle its business against Mid-Tennessee State 28-14. But as promised, I do have the conference standings in my hand. Let's see where everyone stands here at this halfway point here in year number 4. We're going to start out in the ACC in that Carolinas division. Very open division, it seems like. It seems like just about everybody but South Carolina of all teams is still in the hunt to win this. A lot of these teams still have to play each other in the second half of the season, so it's going to be a very interesting race to see who ends up coming on top and representing the Carolinas division for the ACC championship. On the other side, though, we got the Commonwealth division, and right now it seems like it's going to be a 2-team race. This is the lesser of the 2 divisions. Look like it's going to be between North Carolina and Eastern Carolina that are in that 2-horse race at the moment, with all these other teams have at least 2 losses, although Old Dominion has not really played too many conference games. That being said, it doesn't change the fact that North Carolina is probably going to be your heavy favorite to win the Commonwealth division right now. Moving on to the American Conference, we now find ourselves on the frontier, and Nebraska is a team on a mission. They're still undefeated at this halfway point of the season. They're 6-0, and they beat Minnesota as well. So Nebraska, for many intents purposes, they control their own destiny. Missouri is the team to watch here. Missouri has not played Nebraska, so that game could have some impacts, as could Iowa State. Those are two teams to watch here in this race. Minnesota, however, could very well earn themselves an at-large bid if they finish the year strong. As for the Lake Division, Wisconsin is still undefeated right now. The Wisconsin Badgers are 7-0, and they're a top 12 team in the country. However, they are not completely out of the woods. They still got to play Western Michigan and Central Michigan, which Wisconsin should be favored against both teams, but in this beautiful game that is college football, you never know what can happen. As for the Big 12, we move over to the Alamo, and with Texas being a little bit more downed, this becomes a much more open division this year. Right now, it's a two-way tie for first between Rice and Baylor, who both sit at 2-0 in their start of conference play, but all of these teams, they do have to go play each other. No divisional matchups quite yet. We got 4 other teams that have one loss, though. UTSA is having a good year. Houston honestly should be ranked, if we're being honest with ourselves. And then Texas A&M and Texas, who have been disappointments, but they are still in the race. Basically anybody but UTEP at the moment. On the other side, though, is the Lone Star Division, and it looks like it's TCU's to lose. Now, TCU took a big loss to Louisiana Monroe, and it's a bad loss. They're still in the top 25 in spite of that, but their game against Oklahoma, well, that could suddenly become a top 25 matchup here, could decide this Lone Star Division. It's going to come down to those two teams most likely for the Lone Star Divisional Championship. Now, moving ourselves over to the Big Ten, we got to check in on that Buckeye Division, and this is a surprise. Ohio State does not find themselves at the top at the moment. It's a two-way tie between Ohio and Toledo, two former MAC teams that control their own destiny. However, both these teams have to go up against the Ohio State Buckeyes, who have not played up to expectations, but they're still in the picture, as is Akron. Akron trying to get back to a bowl game after a dismal year number 3. They could sliver their way to a conference championship appearance as well if the cards fall in their favor. Now, on the other side is the Hoosier Division here, and Michigan, Michigan had some close calls, but they're still undefeated at this point, and so is Michigan State. They beat Cincinnati. They got their first win of the year, so ironically, Michigan State they still have a lot of their goals in front of them, even with the slow start. Miami, however, is a team to watch here. They did beat Ohio State, so they could certainly beat Michigan. And then Ball State. Ball State very quietly having a very good season, just 2 wins away from bowl eligibility as well. Now, we move ourselves on to the Conference USA, making up the teams primarily from northeastern part of the country. Right now, for the Colonial Division, it seems that Rutgers is alone at the top with a 2-0 conference record, but they play the other teams in the division in the second half. Looking out for Navy and possibly Temple as well. Temple and Navy are keeping pace for now. Could be an interesting 3-team race here for the Colonial Division title. As for the Union Division right now, Pittsburgh stands alone at the top, but the Union Division is a very interesting division to watch. Every team in this division has at least 1 win in conference play. Matter of fact, every single team in this division is above 500, so there is a distinct possibility that all the teams that you see in the Union Division, well, they can all be bowl eligible by the time that this season is over. Very, very strong division here. Quite underrated, actually. No ranked teams in the top 25 aside from Army. Now, a quick look at the Independents, and Independents are having an okay season. They're getting to 4-3. ULM just coming off of a win against TCU, and then San Jose State is also 4-3 at the moment. They played LSU tough, but they couldn't get the win. Now, moving over to the MAC Conference, we now go over to the Blues Division, and right now it seems like Kentucky might be playing their way into a divisional title led by Justin Credible. They are alone at the top. The only team really chasing them is Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt isn't even the same caliber of team, so for Kentucky, this is their division to lose at the moment. However, for the Great Lakes is there's a lot more to be decided here. Freeway tie for first place at the moment. You got Northern Illinois at number 16, and then Western Virginia and Illinois following suit. They're all still undefeated, and they all still have to go play each other. So, lots to be decided here in the second half. seems like Notre Dame is going to need some serious luck plus win out in order to win the Great Lakes Division this year. Now on over to the Mountain West, we know what Utah is doing. We'll check in on where Utah stands in a moment. But what about who Utah could face in that conference championship game at the end of the season? Right now, it's a two-way tie here between Arizona State and Arizona. So that Territorial Cup is going to be a big-time matchup, not just because it's a rivalry, but that could decide conference championship aspirations. Last year's Desert Division champion, though, the Colorado Buffaloes, well, they are still right in it. The Mountain West representative to the college football playoff in year number 3, they are still not too far behind, at least as of right now. Their only loss to UNLV. And then, of course, in the Mountain Division, you got Utah. We know how good Utah is at this point, 7-0 on the year, but BYU has not played Utah, at least as of yet. So BYU, they have the offense. Can they stop Utah enough defensively to get that win? It's a big question, but Colorado State as well is a team to watch here. Colorado State Rams on the verge of bowl eligibility already. Now, going into one of the arguably toughest conferences in America, the Pac-12. It's been a gauntlet, but not as much this year, though. This honestly been a disappointing year for the Pac-12, but Washington currently sits at the top right now. Still very early in conference play. Washington does sit number 19 in the country. And then Cal is somehow still ranked, even though they're 2 games under 500. Definitely some bias towards the Pac-12 by all means, even though both of Cal's wins come in conference play, but that's besides the matter. How about Oregon State, though? Just getting their first conference win against Fresno State. With how weak Washington, California has been, Oregon State can sneak in there and possibly make some noise. Same could also be said for the Nevada Wolfpack as well. However, on the other side, it looks like the Pacific Division title is going to come down to the game between Hawaii and USC. Both are undefeated. That should be a full games highlight package, so that should be one that I am very excited about if these two teams are still ranked. As for your defending champions, UCLA, well, UCLA already has a couple losses, both in heartbreaking fashion. UCLA actually needs a strong finish just to be considered for an at-large spot if they don't get a little bit of lady luck from USC and Hawaii outside their respective matchups. Now, up next, we have the SEC, and the SEC might be where it's at. I mean, we just saw a big game against Miami and Florida State. But on the other side, it seems pretty clear who should be the favorite here. Georgia, always got that 3-0 divisional record, playing the likes of Georgia State, UAB, and Coastal Carolina as well. The only team that could possibly stand in the way of Georgia is Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech doesn't have the same team that they had last year, though. So, is for Georgia, it's more of Georgia's divisional title to lose. We should see them represent this Peach Division. Now, moving on over to the Sunshine, though, we saw the win against Florida State, so Miami controls their own destiny, as long as they handle their business here in the second half of the season. For someone else to win this division, Miami needs to lose a couple of games, and then either Florida Atlantic over here, or Florida State ends up winning out for the rest of the year. Florida State still in a better spot. They could possibly sneak into an at-large role if they can go out and win all of their remaining games in the second half of the season. They don't need a conference championship automatic. And now the West Conference that we have for right now is the Sun Belt. Checking over to the Bayou real fast, Arkansas already played the vast majority of their conference games. They're 6-0. The only team that I think they haven't played yet is LSU that could challenge Arkansas. So the LSU-Arkansas game could have some serious aspirations and has some key moments here decide that Bayou championship title. Arkansas State is still in the picture as well, though, even though they do have a loss to, I believe, the rival Arkansas. But Arkansas State needs a little bit of luck. They got to beat LSU and then hope Arkansas loses to LSU as well. That's really the path for Arkansas State to get her done. On the other side, though, the Dixie division seems like it's going to be a 4-team race, possibly. You know, Ole Miss is at the top. They won the Sun Belt last year. A couple other teams in this picture, though. Alabama, Troy is in here as well. They just lost their second game to Arkansas, so that doesn't hurt them as much. Beat Ole Miss and you're good. Southern Miss, though, how about Southern Miss? They have just one loss in conference play as well. Like Arkansas, though, Ole Miss has played the vast majority of their divisional games. They have 3 more conference games, so that they got to sort out in order to decide who ends up winning the Dixie. So really an extraordinary season that we have on our hands right now. Will we have some old narratives die off here in year number 4? That is going to be decided here in this next episode and through the rest of the season. But it's been a fantastic season. I've been enjoying this NCSL series, and I hope you guys have been enjoying it as well. If you have, make sure you go ahead and do a couple favors for me. Smack that like button, and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you have to be brand new to the channel. This is John J Gaming on the mic signing off. Hope you guys are all out here having a good one. Take care, everybody.